Yeah, so I would write comic books as a kid. And I was like in love with movies at the time too. So all my comic books were about movies, and then I started writing screenplays because my older brother was just a huge cinephile and he got me into movies. So I'd write screenplays a lot, and then plays became sort of the way that I could actually put my work in front of people. So it was really more just because I had a theater department and I had to adapt my screenplays into a play, and then from there I loved playwriting even more. So. Yeah, so the comic books. I had this comic book that was called Eights, and it was like the letter 8, and the top part was the face, and the bottom part was like the rest of the body, and all those characters were like in movies. It was super meta. So that was like my first writing, and then my first plays. I wrote one acts for high school. My very first one act was my own original episode of The Office. And I put that on stage, and then I wrote a drama and like a horror. So really high school theater, there was a one act festival, and at the time it wasn't, you didn't have to write your own student written, but I chose to, and that was a really cool opportunity. That's how I started. So in a weird way, I was thinking about, for some reason, I had been revisiting the story of Cain and Abel at the time, and I thought, what if you tried to do some kind of adaptation of that in a modern sense with with everything going on. And it's not that I wouldn't call this a modern adaptation of Cain and Abel at all, but that's how it started. And then from there, I just thought of ways to make it feel really high stakes. And the idea really came to me around the 2020 election. So, it was everywhere in the news. And so then that idea became to be filtered through politics. And yeah. Yeah, so it started off as an adaptation of Cain and Abel. And then from there, so the two characters were first brothers, and I changed that afterwards, and I made it be a brother and a sister afterwards. And from there on, I was able to do a university production of it as well, and I made a lot of changes after that. I cut characters, I cut whole scenes, and I made them be things that happened off stage instead, which made, I think, the play move at a nicer pace. So yeah, it's gone through a lot of changes from things that weren't even written on the page to things that were and then taken off. But what was really important to me, and I remember we put it in the character description for auditions, is that he should not be played as a villain in any way. I wasn't interested in writing a show that took political sides. It felt like the true heart of the story was a family. And that's a real thing that people really deal with, right? Is families on different sides of the political spectrum. So I thought that was really core to Antonio's character, is that he should be played as a really flawed, really traumatized human who always has this performance on. I think that's a really big thing. He covers that up with his political things. But yeah, so that was really key to me, that he was never played as an antagonist. Yeah. I think what's key about her is strength, or in the lack thereof. I think there's things in her life that she's really strong-willed with, and other things in her life that she's not that way with. And I think the play is her journey towards either becoming strong in those things in her personal life, or giving up that power. So it's really a power struggle for her, regaining the reins to her life. Or not. And so that's what's really important to me. It's like the duality of her. She's really like, in the way that she carries herself, a really oxymoronic character, which I think is super interesting. The political climate, right? I think everybody has had to have really difficult conversations because of politics. Everybody has had relationships severed or hurt because of it, and a lot of times, sadly, it's because of family, and a lot of times it's warranted, but there's just this this inability to come together right now. And I thought, what if we write a play about that? And we put, we bring up the stakes, and we don't make them just people on opposite sides of the spectrum. We make them really be politicians on the opposite side. And then we see if the audience can really relate to the other side or not, So that's why I think. I said in a director's note in the past, I once said that I hope the audience would remember to vote and remember to call home. I think that really shows the two sides of what the play is. I think it's a really high stakes, like big scale political story, but it's also a really personal, family, intimate thing. So I hope that those two angles are things that we keep in mind. Right in the first words, right in the first bit. Yeah, the blank page is so daunting. It's so scary. And it doesn't get easier. I don't think it gets easier at all. Even after writing multiple plays or, even having produced, I think it's just a few weeks ago, I tried to start writing this new play, and I was super excited about it, and I opened up Final Draft, and I looked at it, and I was like, ugh, I cannot. I just felt so scary. So that's the first thing, is taking that first big step and then just going crazy with it. In the last year, I've grown this really intense relationship with Eugene O'Neill that I never had with a writer before, or playwright for that matter. And I think what I really like about him is sort of this, the legend of who he is and his whole life, and how that was filtered through his plays. And once you learn about the history of the man, you read his plays and you're like, these were just huge long therapy sessions. And I don't know, I've never felt that kind of a deep connection with a playwright before. So right now, Eugene O'Neill, yeah. Yeah, so I wrote, I just recently finished up a commission for a TYA musical at American Stage Theater in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I wrote that with Eli Pafumi. He's this amazing composer based out of LA. And that'll be touring to schools in the Tampa Bay area or the start of 2025. I also wrote this satire called Latino that is being currently produced for a staged reading at the University of San Diego. And that and more of my plays can be found on my new Play Exchange.